Hello, and welcome back to Learn the Bible in a Year for March 19th, 2026. Today is your favorite holiday of the year. Of course, it is National Poultry Day, which is a holiday dedicated to chickens, turkeys, and ducks. And I want you to know that in today's reading, we do have turtle doves, as well as young bulls, rams, male lambs, and male goats being offered at the tabernacle. So if you're planning to celebrate National Poultry Day by grilling something, well, you're spiritually in the right neighborhood. Today we finish up Numbers 7, move through Numbers 8, and get to the beginning of Numbers 9. And then we land in Luke 2 for one of the most fascinating scenes in the entire Gospels, 12-year-old Jesus in a temple. So let's dive right into it. We pick up in Numbers 7 in verse 66, which means you are on the day 10 of the 12-day dedication offering sequence. If you were with us yesterday, you know the pattern. Each tribal leader brings an identical offering: silver platter, silver bowl, gold dish, a bull, a ram, a lamb, a goat, a peace offering. And the Bible records every single one in full. Days 10, 11, and 12 bring us Ehezer of Dan, Pagiel of Asher, and Nahara of Naphtali. I probably butchered those names, but you don't know how to say them either, so what do you think about that? Same offering, same structure, same dignity, every tribe equal before the Lord. And the chapter ends in verse 89, which is easy to blow past, but it's actually the whole point of the chapter. It goes like this: When Moses entered the tent of meeting to speak to the Lord, he heard a voice speaking to him from between the two cherubim above the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony. Thus the Lord spoke to him. After 12 days of offering, after all the silver, gold, and grain and livestock, after all the ceremony and dedication, Moses walks in and God speaks. The tabernacle was never about the building, it was about the voice. God wanted to dwell with his people and speak to them, and now we are at that point. Now we move into Numbers 8 and we get two things: the lampstand and the Levites. First, the lampstand. God tells Moses to instruct Aaron to set up 7 lamps so that they light the area in front of the lampstand. Aaron obeys exactly. The text notes that the lampstand was made from hammered gold, one solid piece from base to blossoms, fashioned according to the pattern God had shown Moses. We're not exactly sure what this pattern is, but we know that God showed this pattern to Moses. 7 lamps. 7 is the number of completeness in Scripture. The light was directed forward towards the table of the bread of the presence, towards the place where God met with his people. Jesus will later say, I am the light of the world. The menorah was pointing at him for centuries before he even arrived. Then God turns his attention to the Levites. He tells Moses to take them from among the Israelites and make them ceremonially clean. And here's the process: sprinkle them with purifying water, have them shave their whole bodies, wash their clothes. Then bring 2 bulls, one for a sin offering, one for a burnt offering. Have the entire congregation of Israel lay their hands on the Levites. Then have the Levites lay their hands on the bulls. This double transfer of hands is doing something theologically significant here. The Israelites lay hands on the Levites, symbolically transferring their firstborn obligations to them. The Levites then lay hands on the bulls, transferring those obligations into the animals. The bulls die, the Levites live, and the people are covered. This seems very odd, but God actually explains why. The Levites are wholly given to me from among the sons of Israel. I have taken them for myself in place of all who come first from the womb. Every firstborn in Israel belonged to God since the night of the Passover in Egypt. The Levites are the substitute, standing in for the firstborn of every other tribe. The chapter closes with the Levites' term of service. They begin at age 25 and they retire from heavy work at the age of 50. After 50, they can still assist, they can still mentor, they can still show up, but the physical burden of the work passes to the next generation. This is an early picture of what healthy succession actually looks like. And Numbers 9 opens with a fascinating problem. It's the first month of the second year after the Exodus. God tells Moses to have Israel observe the Passover at its appointed time. And they do. But then a group of men come to Moses with a problem. They are ceremonially unclean because they have been near a dead body. They cannot observe Passover on that day. And they do not just accept it, they push back. They say to Moses, we are unclean because of a dead body, but why should we be excluded from presenting the Lord's offering with the other Israelites at the appointed time? This is a remarkable moment here. These men are not trying to get out of the Passover, they actually want in. They are grieving and they cannot participate. And Moses does something wise here. He does not make a ruling on the spot. He says, "Wait here until I find out what the Lord commands concerning you." And God answers. He provides a second chance Passover 1 month later on the 14th day of the second month. Anyone who was unclean or away on a journey can observe it then. Same lamb, same unleavened bread, same bitter herbs, no bones broken, full observance 1 month later. The question you might have here is why does this matter? Well, it matters because it reveals something about God's character. He is not looking for reasons to exclude people. These men wanted to worship God in that way. The grace of God is not a loophole, it's actually the fundamental entire design. And then the verse 14 extends it further. If a foreigner living among Israel wants to observe Passover as well, they may. The same statute applies to the native and the foreigner alike. The Passover was never meant to be a tribal members only event. It was always pointing towards something bigger, a table that would eventually be set for people from every nation. And of course, the thing we're looking forward to here is the coming of Jesus. Speaking of the coming of Jesus, now we are in Luke chapter 2, and we get the only story in any of our four Gospels about Jesus between his infancy and the beginning of his public ministry. In this case, he is 12 years old. Every year, Joseph and Mary traveled to Jerusalem for the feasts of the Passover. So when Jesus was 12, they went on the Passover journey like usual, and after the feast was over, the family began the journey home. They had been traveling for a full day before Mary and Joseph realized that Jesus was not with them. They had assumed that he was somewhere within their caravan with relatives or friends, but he was not. They turned around and went back to Jerusalem. They searched for 3 days before they found him. And he was in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking questions. And everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, Mary's response was completely understandable. She says, "Child, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." And Jesus responds with the first recorded words that he speaks in the Gospel of Luke. He says, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I would be here in my Father's house?" The Greek phrase here is en toios to patros moi. I probably butchered that a little bit, but literally what this means is in the things of my Father. Some translations render it my Father's house, other my Father's business. The Greek is deliberately ambiguous here. It encompasses both. Jesus is not just saying he's in this building, he's saying that he was where he belonged, doing what he was made to do in the presence of the one that he came from. This is the first time in the Gospel of Luke that Jesus claims God as his Father. He's 12 years old, and he's already clear on who he is and what he is here for. Luke adds two things at the end of this passage that are worth sitting on a bit. First, they did not understand what he was saying to them. Mary and Joseph, who had been visited by angels and heard the prophecies, still didn't fully grasp what they were dealing with. Understanding the identity of Jesus is not a one time event, it unfolds over time. And secondly, the thing that Luke points out here is he says that he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. The Son of God went home and did what his parents told him. For the next 18 years, he lived in obscurity in a small town, working with his hands, honoring his mother and his earthly father. The incarnation was not just the manger, it was his whole ordinary life. And finally, we are in Psalms 35 today. We read verses 11 through 18, and it goes like this. Hostile witness come forward. They make charge I know nothing about. They repay me evil for good, to the bereavement of my soul. Yet when I were ill, I put on sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting, but my prayers returned unanswered. I paced about, as for my friend or brother. I was bowed down with grief, like one mourning for his mother. But when I stumbled, they assembled in glee. They gathered together against me. Assailants I did not know slandered me without ceasing. Like godless jesters at a feast, they gnashed their teeth at me. How long, Lord, will you look on? Rescue my soul from their ravages, my precious life from these lions. Then I will give you thanks in the great assembly. I will praise you among many people. Alrighty, and as you know, this show has been brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, Covenant Security Equipment, which is a Christian owned company that partners with building contractors who build with safety in mind. They provide bullet resistant windows, secure transaction systems, drive through installations, and much, much more. If this is interesting to you, go to covenantsecurityequipment.com to find out more. And also, don't forget to pick up the copy of the Learn the Bible in a Year workbook. The link to the digital version or the paperback version is in the show notes, so check that out there. Alrighty, what was your main takeaway from today's reading? My main takeaway from this portion of scripture that we read today was Jesus' posture towards his parents when they found him in the temple. Now, Jesus was 12 years old. He already knew that he was God. Now, I don't know at what point in his life he figured that out or if he always knew that. I mean, I don't know how an infant baby who can't, do anything would understand that. But either way, we know that by the time he was 12, he already knew that he was God. He already knew that he was the son of God. Maybe he had some miraculous memories, whatever. Nobody knows, but he knew he was God. So when his parents are asking him to do things, it would be totally reasonable for him to not have to listen to his earthly parents. I mean, after all, he is God. But that's not what he did. He took the humble approach and he listened to his parents and he went home with them and he was obedient to his earthly parents. I mean, there certainly would have been times when his earthly parents were wrong and he knew they were wrong because he's God, but he was obedient to them nonetheless. It's just a really good picture of the nature of God and the nature of Jesus. So that was really cool for me. What was your main takeaway? I'd love to hear about it. Alrighty, well, that is the episode for today, and I will see all of you cool cats again here tomorrow.